Hi. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Knock Knock Hi with us, the Glaucomfleckens. I am Dr. Glaucomflecken, also known as Will Flannery.
I'm Lady Glaucomflecken, also known as Kristen Flannery.
I almost forgot how to do our introduction for the show because
we've had a pause in recording.
It's been a few weeks.
It has. The listeners won't know because it has just continued on, but we had to front load a whole bunch of episodes and then take a long break to go on tour.
Yeah. How have you been?
I've been tired.
Good to see you again.
You too. We were on tour together.
That's
and
true.
Also we live together.
That's true. But we have 2 more tour dates left for 2024, but we've gotten through the majority of the tour. Knowing what it's like now, because this is really the first time either of us have ever done something like this. Mm-hmm. I don't know how people do like legit tours, like
80 cities.
Right. Like
it's exhausting.
Yeah. Like how does Taylor Swift do it?
Here's the thing that is different.
We're basically like Taylor Swift now.
We are nothing like Taylor Swift, but those people do get to go from one city to the other, like generally speaking, that's how a tour works, right? You have a tour bus, or if you're rich and famous, you have a private jet or what have you, where you're just kind of going around versus what we have been doing, which is fly from the West Coast to the East Coast, back to the West Coast, all in one weekend, and then do that 3 weekends in a row. And then add a 4th one where we fly to the central time. You know what I mean? Like, we're going back and forth.
You're saying that
much.
Other artists, like musicians and such, they don't have ophthalmology jobs to get back to?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, I guess.
That is what I'm saying.
Okay. That's a little bit out of the ordinary.
Per usual, it's your fault.
Oh, yes, of course. But it has been, it's been awesome to see people in different cities and
it's
see family and friends as well. So it's great. Are you sad it's coming to an end for 2024?
No, because it's going to continue.
That's right.
We're
and you're like,
deep
we
in
have
the planning
other
for
things
2025.
we need to do with our lives too. Like
that is true as well. There's a lot going on over here.
Well, we do. We are planning more shows because there's so much fun to do once we get there. But we got a lot to catch up on, and we have more segments for these Glauc Talk episodes.
All right.
So that we get to do something we haven't done in a while, just sit here and talk to each other.
Yeah.
For an extended period of time.
Yeah.
With nothing to do other than just talk to each other.
Yeah.
So
do you ever find it odd to come here and be full of energy and enthusiasm and friendliness when, sometimes, not saying today, but sometimes.
Is this about to be a backhanded compliment?
No. Sometimes we are, we're getting through the morning rush right before this.
Right.
So that tends to be a time when no one's really at their best and it can be stressful and there can be bickering and things. And then we just have to like pretend like none of that happened and then just be like, hey, buddy.
Oh my God. Were we bickering? I don't know.
No, I said not today.
Not today.
But sometimes that's how it is.
I think that we have one change I've noticed in our relationship over the years of marriage is that we are so much better at just like recognizing that some of the bickering that when we have like a set period of time where we're bickering about something, we both recognize this is like not something we need to like keep going.
It's like not going to be productive.
Right. And then like we are much faster at putting that behind us and just moving on.
Yeah, we're faster at just not continuing the conversation about it. I don't know about, it's sometimes you still feel annoyed.
Sure. Okay.
Right? So like you carry those feelings, like I'm looking at you and I'm like, oh, I'm so freaking annoyed with you right now. But hi, how you doing? No?
This is news to me. Okay.
You don't feel that way sometimes?
No, because I love you.
I love you too, but anyone who works together and lives together
unconditionally at all times.
No, you don't.
You never annoy me.
That's not true. I know that for a fact.
I guess what she's saying, audience, is we're so good at faking it. It's we really do like each other most of the time.
Yeah. It's just it's a little quirk of when you work with your spouse, right? That you don't separate life very much, right? It's all intermixed. And so that is one of the things that people find challenging, I think, about the thought of working with their spouse.
Yeah.
So
now that we've set the stage for how wonderful our relationship is, this is a good period, a good time to do some marriage advice.
Okay. This is marriage. We just said that we got better at bickering, right? Got better at like letting it go.
We're better at bickering. We're better at letting it go and just burying it deep down inside of us. So, and then a while back we asked for people to, because we're so good at marriage, to give us if they have questions or they want some advice on how to, because I do, in all seriousness, I think it's a bit unusual and great that we are able to work together and still be happy with our lives, right? Yeah. I mean, at least that's something I think is remarkable.
Yeah, it's not common.
So anyway, we did get a few people reach out, and so I have one here from Ryan. This is Ryan. He says, I am an MS3, a third-year med student, getting married in August 2025. Congratulations. Yes. And currently in the wedding planning process. My partner is a psychiatric pharmacist and is absolutely brilliant, very outgoing, and has supported me every step of the way throughout medical school process so far. Does that sound familiar?
Mm-hmm.
Despite a very demanding job herself. We love to travel and plan fun date nights together. I'm planning on matching into pediatrics and was wondering if you had any advice on marriage during residency as an attending and med school altogether, or in medicine altogether. I want to make sure I'm the best husband for my partner while also devoting my all to being the best pediatrician I can. I'm just a little nervous that especially while in residency, I'll be pushing 80 to 100-hour work weeks and won't have the bandwidth to be there for her as much as I'd like to. So when I said like marriage advice, in my head, I was thinking like, how do you be like cleaner and like put your clothes away?
What if one of you squeezes the toothpaste tube from the middle and one of you from the end?
Exactly. But this is like legit, like life stuff. And it's a great question.
Yeah. I mean, I have things to say about this, but I want to hear what you have to say about this.
Okay, I got to go first. Well, first of all, the wedding planning process is very stressful. I kind of remember I blacked a lot of that out, I think, because there was conflict. It was challenging. And
conflict.
Yeah, I just remember there being lots of stress, not between us. Like just there's lots of
logistics. Yeah.
And it being very stressful.
Are you remembering interpersonal conflict?
No, not really. Okay. Just it's such a stressful thing.
Yes.
To have to go through. So good luck with that. But in terms of your question about how to advice on marriage during this whole process, it would help if you went into ophthalmology. That would be good. No, I'm just kidding. Not everyone should be in ophthalmology. We need some pediatricians.
Pediatric ophthalmology.
There is pediatric ophthalmology. For now, you got to go through the ophthalmology side of things. But I would say take time every day to listen to each other, because sometimes you're only going to have like on the order of minutes amidst your busy lives. And that was one of the mistakes that I feel like I made a lot throughout residency and just medical training, is just focusing so much on the medicine and the training that we just kind of ignored each other, and I ignored you, and that's not good. And so there will be stretches of time in residency when you are so busy. You're right. You're working 100-hour work weeks. But if you can find, even if it's like 10 minutes, literally 10 minutes, either on the phone or in person, to like not look at a phone or at your study materials and at looking at each other, I think that really does help get through those really busy, difficult time periods.
Mm-hmm. I got a lot to say.
Go for it.
Okay. These are in no particular order. It's just a bunch of stuff that when I read this is what pops into my mind. One is, I think a lot of this has to do with a mindset rather than actions, right? Because if you have this mindset, it will be reflected in all of your actions. And the mindset is that, your job is not more important than her job. Both are equally important. Both are important, but like it's not a competition. Like one doesn't get to win over the other. And there's going to be times in medical training where a lot of time and effort has to get put into medical training. But that the mindset of, well, how can I support her career as well? Because it's just as important as mine, that should be there too. And there may be some compromise for a few years, but then maybe at the end of residency, if she had to sacrifice a lot during residency, maybe then it's your turn to sacrifice after residency or something like that.
It's not about who wins. In fact, oftentimes you both will lose.
That's right. In a medical marriage, that is true. No, but okay, so that's one thing. Another thing, it's not, this is related to mindset, right? It's very easy. This is what will just naturally happen by default if you don't counteract it, is that you fall into these, patterns and ways of thinking that's kind of like me and my stuff versus you and your stuff. And, who gets to quote unquote win today, right? Whose stuff gets to happen or whatever. And so that is only going to lead to conflict and resentment. So it helps to shift your mindset to, it's not me and mine and you and yours versus each other. It's me and you versus our situation, right? That you are on a team together. You're not, because it's really easy to feel like you're having to, pit yourself against each other so that both of you can get your needs met. But, just understand there's going to be a lot of stuff that doesn't get met, but that it's temporary. It's just for this period of time while you're in training, because it's very intense. And then after that, it's a whole different world. So this is not forever. That's another good thing to keep in mind.
Unless you start a social media business, then it is forever.
Yeah, I was promised all sorts of free time after residency, and look what happened. I had one more thing to say about it. Oh, I remembered. Okay, here's the other thing I wanted to say.
Let's do it.
You won't be able to be there all the time, right? 80 to 100-hour work week, you just won't. But that means that she is picking up all of your slack. And that's exhausting.
That's a lot of slack.
And it is a lot of slack. And especially if, you end up deciding to have children at some point along this, it's even more, right? So if you can't be there to help pick up the slack, at least think about how can the slack be picked up, right? What can we outsource, for one thing? Best money we ever spent was housekeeper during residency, because then we don't have to worry about making sure the house gets clean on top of everything else.
Yeah, that was key.
Yeah, and it might feel like a splurge because you're not making a lot as a resident, but it's like, well, what are you getting for that money? It's not just about spending the money. It's about getting the time back, and time is also valuable.
One thing off your mind.
And one thing off your mind, and one thing less to fight about who's going to do it, right? So if you can't be there to do it, do everything you can to put someone else there who's able to do it, either hiring someone or arranging, for who's in your network, who's in your village, right? Arranging for somebody to help your wife when you can't be there, and always be thinking about that, right? That doesn't have to take a lot of your time. But if you go to the effort of saying, I see what you're doing, I see all the hard work you're doing at home and at work, and I see that you're tired and you're doing this for me, or at least because of me, then, I am going to think about how I can make your life easier.
I knew
just a little bit of that will go a long way.
I knew you'd have such a much better answer than me about this. So that's good.
What does that say? I don't know. I mean, you're complimenting me, so thank you. But also, like, man, I want you to have some good answers sometimes.
Well, did I? I didn't have a good answer.
Oh, you had a good answer.
That was a good answer.
Fine.
All right. You just have more brain thoughts about everything.
Brain thoughts.
And that's
maybe that's
all
something you can work on.
Having more brain thoughts. I think at this point, my brain is fully formed and developed, and I don't think
deteriorating.
Yeah, if anything, I'm just going to get fewer brain thoughts over time. All right, let's take a break. We'll be right back. Today's episode is brought to you by DAX Copilot from Microsoft. To learn about how DAX Copilot can help you reduce burnout and restore the joy of practicing medicine, visit aka.ms/knock-knock-high. That's aka.ms/knock-knock-high. All right, I've got some fun things to go over with you.
Okay.
Some new segments, some new things. But first, let's go to healthcare news.
Okay.
All right. So I'm going to read you the title of an article that's been making the rounds.
Okay.
It's a Wall Street Journal article.
Okay.
And I just want I'm not going to tell you what the reaction in the medical community is. I want you to guess what the reaction has been. Okay. All right, here it is. Wall Street Journal. Young doctors want work-life balance. Older doctors say that's not the job.
I've seen this.
Oh, you did? You saw this?
Well, a little bit.
Physician. Here's the subtitle. Physicians for generations accepted being at the mercy of their pagers. Now, many are questioning medicine's workaholic culture.
Yeah. I can guess what the response in the medical community has been, which is just what that headline said. Straight down the middle. Pretty much by age or, years in training, which when you did your training.
I would say I've not seen anybody support the idea that, that's not true. I've seen a few responses of people who support the idea that it needs to be doctors it needs to be all you're thinking about is medicine. And that's your whole life is medicine. You know who I've heard that from? You would think it would be the older docs.
No.
It's from people who are not in healthcare. Who are patients. Who are saying things like, if I'm going to have surgery, I want my surgeon that's all he ever wants to do in life is just be a surgeon.
Yeah.
What's your take on that?
Well, I see the thought process. It's a scary thing. You want to make sure that it's somebody who's really good at what they do. However, I would counter with, no, you don't. No, you don't want that. Not really.
Well,
because then that person is going to be exhausted. They're going to be unhappy because they have no social life. And that is something that Homo sapiens need. They're neglecting all of their needs, essentially, which is not sustainable. Might sound good in the short term, but it is not sustainable over the course of a career.
It also equates obsession with competence.
Correct. That's true.
That
was a good brain thought.
You like that one?
Nice job.
And I think that's a fallacy. That's not something that is, I don't know the data behind that, but it doesn't seem like that's correct.
No, it does not. And it's sometimes problematic, in fact.
Right. So, and it really also discounts but if you read the article, and I encourage people to go and look this up, there are some quotes from docs who are in their 60s, 70s, even one quote from a doctor who's part-time in his 80s. And to that person, I say, retire. Enjoy the rest of your life. If you're 80, that's me. Maybe this person just loves being a physician so much, but
it's just things change.
Think about it.
Things change.
But some of the quotes are very much, I had to do this and when I was a young physician, when I was coming up in training, we really cared for patients. The implication being because we want work-life balance, because we want to be able to take sick leave and work 4 days a week, that we are not really, our soul is not in this.
Yeah, I don't think that's what's making patient care deteriorate.
No,
I don't think that's it at all.
It's the systemic factors, right?
Exactly.
It's the consolidation of healthcare under predatory corporations and the corporatization of healthcare.
Insurance policies that are ridiculous.
And I would argue that the newer physicians, this generation coming up, they are getting into medicine for all the same reasons that the previous generations have gotten into medicine. They're not in it for the money or to become an influencer. Like, that's not the motivation. It still is not the motivation.
Because there are much, much, much easier ways to do both of those things if you want that.
It really is. It's the external factors that, I mean, the majority of physicians now are employed by Optum, United Healthcare. And so, like, yeah, it's easy to label something as a calling, like medicine. That's the whole dynamic here, is calling versus a job.
But then that allows you to abuse the people that are doing it.
Correct. It's easy to label something as a calling when you have control over your own destiny.
Yeah.
But when it's just literally a job that you're working for a corporation, it's hard to see that as like I want to be this,
because then you're not working for the patient anymore. You're working for the company.
Right. And that is the biggest difference, I think.
Yeah.
From docs who are 60 and grew up in the system where you can just throw your shingle out, start a practice.
Right.
And you're working for the patient and you're making an unbelievable living. Doctors, they're still making a good living now, but it's under vastly worse circumstances.
Yeah. The work environment is not nearly as conducive to happiness.
So anyway, this article, it's a little bit clickbaity. It's like, I saw it and I knew immediately, oh, this is gonna, and I commented on it on Twitter. And so we just like need this like pitting intergenerational, physicians against each other. Like, that needs to go away. Do you feel like
that actually exists, like, in the workforce, or do you feel like this is a narrative that the media has mostly created?
I think it exists, but to a lesser degree than people think. I don't think
like the media makes it seem bigger than it is.
Yeah, I think so. And it's just getting less and less of a thing over time. Now that we have like so many physicians have worked their entire careers now in this system where private equity is coming up and health insurance companies are becoming more powerful. So we're losing more of the physicians who worked back in the day. Right. We're losing more of the back in the day physicians because they're retiring or they're just getting out of medicine. So anyway, so that was a interesting thing that came up. All right, that's our healthcare news. What else? Oh, let's do this. You have a good one. You came to me a while back with Why Is It Like This?
Yes.
So, Why Is It Like This? A segment where Kristen chooses a thing in healthcare that is a bit perplexing to her.
And she asks someone not in healthcare.
As someone that's not in healthcare, and asks me, someone who is in healthcare, why is it like this? So tell me, what do you have for us?
Okay. How come when I go, this often happens I mostly go to the pediatrician because I have 2 children. There's only one of me. There's 2 of them, and they require various appointments, right? So most of my interactions with the healthcare system are at the pediatrician's office, but this is not specific to pediatricians because I've also had it in other places of adult medicine. Why is it that when I go there, I do all the online check-in ahead of time to save time and, answer all those questions.
Good about that.
Yeah, I'd like to do that ahead of time. And then you get there, you check in, and then they hand you more forms. So first of all, it's like, okay, well, I could have done this one ahead of time too, but okay, here we are. Take the form, answer all the questions, and, depending on what you're there for, it's asking you basically like, for all the history of how have we gotten here, right? Like family history, but also like, what have you been noticing in your child?
This is a new patient form?
No.
You do this every time, right?
I wouldn't say every time, but often.
Okay. All right.
I think like it's definitely like every annual appointment you do this, and anytime, and yes, anytime you are establishing new patient or like you're establishing yourself in a different part of the clinic, right? But you answer all these questions. It's like a front and a back and all this stuff. And then there's like the depression questionnaires and like things. And they're good questions. I have no problem with the questions. I see why they're asking. I think they're useful. That's great that they're getting this information. My issue is, and my question, why don't they ever look at it? Why do you make me do all these things and then they don't look at it?
How do you know they're not looking at it?
Well, because sometimes it just gets left in the room. And I don't know, maybe somebody's coming in afterward and doing something with it. But like,
are you carrying the forms?
Yes,
don't you give them to the front desk?
No, they always say give it to
the person who brings you back. Okay.
And so, often they don't ask for it.
Okay. Sometimes
I will be like, did you want this? They told me to give this to you. And then they'll be like, oh yeah. And they'll take it. And then sometimes if we both forget, it just sits in the room. And then this is my favorite. Sometimes this happens. This happened to me recently when I took our child in for an appointment. They gave me the form, filled it all out. Then I get in the room and they ask me all the same questions verbally. And then I have to give all those answers again, but verbally this time. Why did I write them all down if I'm just going to say them verbally? And she was typing them into the notes as I'm talking.
So what you're describing is taking an HPI. So it's what's history of present illness, and what's happening is you're basically filling out the HPI yourself with like, how did we get here? What's the history? What's going on? And then the person who's bringing you back is just doing the HPI themselves.
Yes. Why are we both doing this?
That's a good question.
It seems like a more efficient thing to do would be to read over what I have written and then see what remaining questions you have.
I think a fun research idea would be like to have patients, like parents or whoever it is, write like something that's like a buzzword in healthcare. Like on the history of present illness. Like my child's urine smells like maple syrup. Which is like,
okay, but if that's not true, I feel like that's not going to pass IRB.
Well, probably not. But like, you get my point. Like, put something in there that's on the form,
they're reading it,
and just see what happens.
Yeah.
And
if you've gotten this far, please talk to me about.
Yeah, right. You're right. That would never pass IRB. But I understand the frustration from patients about like repeating HPIs, especially in that type of situation. Now,
like, I literally have it right here.
Right. So what I think should happen is they just bring you back and you do the HPI there. Now, asking about the medical history. See, what we do in our eye clinic is all patients do fill out like a medical history form, and that I don't always look at. And that's
don't make them fill it out.
And so here's, I think, part of the problem. I think a lot of this is regulatory burden that is on the medical practice to have a checklist that they have to like say, we did this, we did this, we did this, in order to be reimbursed.
So here's what I'm hearing from you. That's just something they have to do. It's not something they actually care about. And so what I can do is go in and just scribble on it. They'll hand it to me. I'll just make a bunch of doodles, and then I'll give it back.
Do it. I mean, do it. Well, see, it's not totally that way though, because part of like our health history form, it's like got medications and allergies, and those we do, like the technician does look at those and put them into the chart. So there's some parts of it
not if they're not taking the paper, they don't.
Well, you leave it in the room, and often they'll come and clean the room, and they'll get.
Why are they looking at that after the appointment?
So the one thing I don't understand, the health history stuff, like, I mean, that's something that just you want in the record. but it's
but it's relevant to why you're there.
Well, not all the things are relevant to why you're there that day. It's some just like having the family history.
Form?
So they can.
Why are you making me fill out irrelevant information?
That's not irrelevant, because what if you or your kid comes in with some health issue and it's like an urgent thing, and then we already have some of that information. So the question you should be asking is like, why would you have to do it a second time?
That is a question I have. I have filled out the family history. It's already in the chart. Why are you making me do it again?
The health, the questions about why you're here, that is something I don't really get. Like, for us in the eye clinic, like we don't ask those types of questions in any form. What we do is when the patient calls to make an appointment, we ask them for like, what's the purpose of your visit? Mm-hmm. And so I have that information that's actually helpful for me. So we know like where to put them in the schedule, how long that appointment I can expect it to be, if it's a double vision appointment versus a dry eye versus a dilated exam, like that all helps me. But I totally don't understand like having you write down the reason and talk about the symptoms and all the things, and then asking you right as you get into the room without looking at the paper. I agree. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Oh, it's so frustrating. It's like if it happened once or twice, it's like, oh, okay, well, this is whatever. But it happens a lot.
So I do think that some of this is just contributes to what we call like this note bloat, where you have to check off certain things.
So I'm doing everyone a favor if I just scribble. That's what I'm taking away from this conversation. Just scribble on that.
No, I don't think you are, but I do think it would be interesting to see what the reaction would be if you just scribbled on the things that you don't think is important, and then see if anybody, like, if it changes anything. I would love to see like something done about like in outpatient world about this.
Yeah. You know what this reminds me of? When I was a teenager, I'm going to date myself, but when I was a teenager, and my mom was teaching me like how to write checks. She would sometimes have me write checks.
Valuable skill.
At the grocery store, right? We would be at the grocery store and she'd let me write the check or whatever. And then I would get to the signature. This is not parenting advice, okay? I have to say. But we'd get to the signature part and I'd be like, Mom, you have to sign. It's asking for your signature. It's your account.
Yeah.
You have to sign. And she'd be like, nah, you can put anything there. They don't check. She's like, you can write Mickey Mouse in there. Watch this. She wrote Mickey Mouse. Nothing happened.
I love those lessons.
Feels like that.
Our parents, your mom, got you to write the checks for my mom. Let me put the gasoline in the car. Our parents did just.
The thing is, I was a teenager at the time.
Oh, that's right.
Just a couple years from being on my own.
I was like 8.
Yes.
Do we have to write checks anymore? Can you think of a reason why we
sometimes have to write checks? Yeah. With credit card processing fees these days, people are
they're going back to checks?
I mean, they're preferring it, especially like
really?
Like contractors and things that like come to your house and provide a service, and plumbers and things like that. Like they kind of prefer checks
because those can be costly things, and if there's like a 1.5% fee on top of that,
right? Yeah, and some people like,
but we don't get the points then.
I know. Well, it's not even about the points. It's just it's much easier for me to hand them over a card. But yeah,
true.
A lot of small businesses, especially, are not.
Isn't there a lot more like check fraud and stuff?
I don't know. It feels like everything just swings back and forth, like
one thing's never going to go away?
What?
The fax machine.
That thing is the cockroach.
You ever faxed a check?
The technology industry, probably. You know what? This is how old I am. When I was growing up, we've talked about this before, right? I worked at my parents'. They had a dairy supply store, and I worked there from a very young age. And sometimes I'd be there after school, sweeping floors, dusting, stuff like that. I'd be there after school, and my friends and I would fax notes to each other in our separate locations. And we would just write little notes, draw pictures, whatever, and then just fax them back and forth to each other. Yeah.
That's cool how like 30 years later, that's still a thing you could do.
I know. It's kind of depressing. Basically, it was like texting before cell phones.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. There you go.
All right. Anything else you want to date yourself with?
No, I think I've done enough damage.
Faxing, check writing.
Checks.
What else did you learn? You learned how to use a stick shift?
Oh, yeah, of course.
So did I.
Yeah, I loved my little stick shift car. I miss having a stick shift.
Should we get you that next time?
I mean, it needs to be just a for funsies kind of a thing. I
Yeah.
don't miss, when you're just like stuck in traffic.
There
Stop
is
and go.
one of these days. I'm going to object to it, but you're going to get yourself a motorcycle. I can feel it.
I would love to do that.
'Cause
I
gotta,
regret that I have not done that. I do.
What listeners? What would be a beginning motorcycle for
For a petite, middle-aged woman?
All right, let's take one more break. Hey, Kristen.
What?
You know what mites do when they get excited?
What?
They dance. They dance. They dance all over your face. You got these on your eyelids. You know that, right?
I do not.
Well, some people do.
Okay.
They're Demodex mites.
Yes.
They cause blepharitis, which is like red, itchy, irritated eyelids, like flakiness. Just you want to scratch your eyes, and don't do that, by the way. But yeah, sometimes that's from disease.
Demodex dance.
It's the Demodex dance on the eyelids, except it's not that fun because it gives you all those symptoms. All right, so yeah, but they're cute, right? They're not.
Yeah.
They're not gross.
These ones are these stuffy versions,
right? Oh, the real ones, not so much.
Are the real ones gross in the microscope?
They're still. I think they're still cute, but again, I'm an ophthalmologist.
Yeah.
But don't get freaked out by this.
Okay.
Get checked out.
All right.
All right. You go find out more. Go to eyelidcheck.com. Again, that's EYELID check.com to get more information about Demodex and Demodex blepharitis. All right, we are back. Let's say our producer has recommended a Vespa.
Yeah.
That's not like it's like a scooter.
Yeah. I would take a dirt bike. Doesn't have to be like
a dirt bike.
Sure, like a motorized.
Yeah, you're like trying to
those?
injure yourself now.
I like to go fast.
The crotch rocket.
I had my little sports car that was a stick shift. Yeah. Oh, I loved that thing.
All right.
It was a piece of garbage, but I loved it.
I think maybe we can, instead of like having you go on like the road with other people.
Yeah.
Maybe we can like find a place.
Like a racetrack.
Yeah. Like I'm sure that exists where you can just go and like get your fix. You can like, I think if you just rode a motorcycle for like an hour, you'd probably be good for like, another 5 years.
5 years.
You get your fill on motorcycle riding. Or do you think it would?
You don't know what it's like to have the need for speed.
So we're always arguing about this because we
have a child that has the need for speed.
We have a child that has the need for speed, and so we're sometimes we talk about road safety and how to, and they are sometimes backseat drive us a little bit and tell us to go faster or to drive better. And I always have to remind them, listen, it's your mom that you need to tell this stuff to because she is a speed demon. And
but you've given them a false impression. Like they think that I continue to get many speed tickets and am on the verge of losing my license on any given day. No, that was a short period of time where I did get multiple speeding tickets close together. And if I had gotten one more, I would have been in danger of having my license suspended, but I did not. The point is I have control over this.
Sure.
I toned it down, but I like to go fast.
Yeah, you do. Okay. Well, let's, maybe start you off on like a motorized scooter or something. See how you do.
One of those wheelchairs at the grocery store.
Let's start with a scooter at the grocery store and move on to a motorized scooter. All right. Let's do something fun here.
Okay.
As opposed to what we've been doing.
Yeah, I was going to say. Let's change it up a little and have some fun.
Something a little bit different. This last thing before we go. I always joke. A joke I make during our live show is about how like ophthalmologists are like below the nasal bridge. We're kind of dumb.
Yeah.
And I did have one person come up to me after the show. I forgot what show it was, and said, a very serious look on their face. She says, "You are not dumb." trust me. As if like I was
took it to
convincing
heart.
enough that
Yeah.
like she actually believed that I believed I was not smart as an ophthalmologist. And so let's try to prove to people
Okay.
that I am actually quite smart.
Okay.
I want you to give me an MCAT question.
Okay.
Now, for context, I am getting up there in years.
Mhm.
It's been a while. I am 39 years old, and I took the MCAT just to drive it home. I was the last group that took the paper and pencil MCAT.
Now who's dating
Scantron,
themselves?
exactly. Scantron, everything, big auditorium, 100 people in it, pencil and paper, all those things.
I kind of miss filling out those bubbles.
Okay, you would. I bet you filled out the bubbles so perfectly too.
Oh, I
You were
loved it.
never
So
outside the
satisfying.
lines.
Yeah, and you have to read the instructions for if you change your answer, you got to do it just right.
So I was the last paper and pencil exam, which would have been 2007 ish, somewhere
I
around
think
there.
so,
Yeah,
'cause
2007. So anyway, so I think so. We're gonna see how this. I do remember the MCAT being the hardest test that I ever took. I felt worse after the MCAT than I have with any other test in my
Yes.
medical journey.
Yes, I thought
I was
you would never come out of your room.
I was despondent afterwards.
You really were. That is not an exaggeration.
I was
Laying
convinced I
alone
failed
in
it.
the dark.
And when my score came back, I got a 31, which is on like a 45 scale.
Yeah.
Which is it's a good score. It's like
Yeah.
it opened a lot of doors for me. It allowed me the opportunity to go to Dartmouth, I'm sure, because I'm sure there was a cutoff that you couldn't go below. So anyway, so let's see what I still know.
And have you learned your lesson about that? I feel like you're still working on learning that lesson. You've gotten slightly better, but it's still a pattern for you.
About what?
That you feel like you've done horribly on something when in fact you've done very good, and you spend all this time beating yourself up about how horribly you did. And then it turns out it's fine.
Well, there's not as many things that are like that in my life that I could feel that way about.
Yeah, you don't have to take tests anymore.
Yeah, I don't have any tests anymore. Oh, that's a good question. I have to think about like what in my life could could be on that scale. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. All right. What do you got?
All right. Give
me a question.
Here's a question. I don't know if I'm going to pronounce all these correctly, but here goes. Acetylation. Is that right? Acetylation?
God, I already hate this question.
Acetylation of lysine residues in histones increases gene expression because acetylation of lysine residues in histones increases gene expression because A, DNA is tightly bound to negatively charged amino acids on histones. This might backfire on you. You're trying to prove you're smart. B, the carboxyl oxygen atoms in acetyl groups form hydrogen bonds with nitrogenous bases.
That doesn't sound right.
C, the salt bridges between charged amino acids and phosphate groups are disrupted. Or D, lysine residues in histones associate with positively charged phosphate groups in DNA.
What was the question again? Read the question one more time.
Acetylation of lysine residues in histones increases gene expression because
increases. Okay. And
DNA is tightly bound to negatively charged amino acids on histones.
Okay.
The carboxyl oxygen atoms.
No. I think I've narrowed it down to A or D.
Okay, so A is what I just said. DNA is tightly bound to negatively charged amino acids on histones. D, lysine residues in histones associate with positively charged phosphate groups in DNA.
D.
Okay, I'm going to push D. Submit. False. It's C. The salt bridges between charged amino acids and phosphate groups are disrupted.
I cannot believe that is a question to see if you're ready for med school. What are they doing?
You gotta know biochem.
Not like that, you don't. No. You gotta just know what is DNA, I think is enough. All right.
Okay, well, I'll give you an easy one now.
Nope. We'll save it for next. My brain. I'm already tired.
Oh, this is an easy one.
Okay, go
You
ahead.
told me
All right,
3, so I'm doing 3.
Okay, one more.
Okay. No, 2 more. Which pairs of substances are released from exocrine glands? A, glucagon and tears. B, bile and insulin. C, insulin and digestive enzymes. Or D, tears and bile. Exocrine glands.
Okay, tears are definitely one of them. What was the other one with tears?
Glucagon and tears, or tears and bile.
Bile.
That's a terrible band name.
Tears
and bile.
Tears and bile. Bile comes. Okay, that's like from the gallbladder. What kind of a gland is that though? Okay, I'm gonna go with bile.
Okay, tears and bile.
Jeez, I don't know. Yes. Okay.
You're right. Hooray!
Yes. Oh my God. Oh, it feels so good. I'm gonna go take the MCAT again.
Oh,
I think
boy.
I could. I don't. Oh yes.
I wouldn't get carried away. I was gonna also give you an organic chemistry one, but I feel like you need to study first.
Yeah, let's end on a high note there. All right.
So 1 win, 1 loss.
What we'll do?
It's a wash.
I like that though. I want to do more.
Okay.
We'll do more later. Like off.
Now who's
air.
the nerd?
Like
you like to take tests for fun.
Like for bedtime. I want you to just as I drift off to sleep.
That's your pillow talk. You want some MCAT questions?
All right. Well, what do we do now? That's our show. That's our show. That's it. That's the end of Glauc Talk. We'll talk to each other again in a couple weeks.
Yeah. See you then.
Let us know what you guys think. If you have any suggestions, any things you want us to discuss about healthcare, about marriage, about whatever it is, you can email us knockknockhi@human-content.com. Tell we haven't done this in a while.
A little rusty. We're shaking off the cobwebs.
It's weird. You just you get in such a groove and then you don't record for a while and then it's you got to figure out how to do it again.
Well, and your mind's still on these questions. I can tell.
That's right. That's right. You can also visit us on our social media apps.
Are you okay? Are you having a stroke?
Social media accounts. Hang out with us and our Human Content Podcast family on all the apps. And TikTok @Human Content
Send
Pods.
us a check.
And thank you all for listening. Thank you for the feedback and reviews. We love those reviews. If you subscribe and comment on your favorite podcasting app or on YouTube, by the way, YouTube channel @Glaucumfleckens, steadily growing.
Mm-hmm.
People are finding it. We can give you a shout out like today. Zonular Apparatus, love that name, on Apple said, you questioned whether we would like to hear your bizarre optho terms. I was listening today, ER and nurse practitioner here. You said the word zonular apparatus, to which I loudly proclaimed, now that is just completely made up. I asked my husband, who thinks he maybe learned about this in his optho rotation and promptly forgot because I knew I would never need that info again. I love hearing these weird terms you use in eyeball world. Your podcast is great for down and dirty eye learning, for we plebeians trying to not make people go blind. Zonular apparatus is a real thing.
A ridiculous word. You could have been Dr. Zonular apparatus.
It's 2 words, by the way. Zonular apparatus. It's what holds the lens in place inside the eye. It's very important and also a very scary structure if it's not healthy, because it makes cataract surgery much more challenging. Thank you for that. I'll keep up maybe that's another segment we could do together. Could give you an ophthalmology term and you have to try to guess what it is. Yeah. Full video episodes are up every week on our YouTube channel @Glaucumfleckens. Tons of cool perks over on Patreon. You guys should check it out. Bonus episodes where we react to medical shows and movies, hang out with other members of our wonderful little community, early ad-free episode access, and our Q&A live stream events, much more. Patreon.com/Glaucumflecken or go to Glaucumflecken.com. Also early access to live show tickets, upgrades, things like that.
Free upgrades.
Speaking of Patreon community perks, new member shout out, Tierney K, Janet L, Wildwood K9 Fun Center. That sounds like a fun place. Catherine N, always a fan. Gail, that's the name, always a fan. I like that. Gail M, Nikki T, Kelsey M. Thank you all for joining. Shout out to the Jonathans as usual. A virtual head nod to you all. Patrick Lacie C, Sharon S, Edward K, Stephen G, Marion W, Mr. Grandetti, Caitlin C, Brianna L, Mary H, KL, Keith G, Jeremiah H, Parker, Muhammad L, David H times 2, Kaylee A, Gabe, Gary M, Eric B, Marlene S, Scott M, Kelsey M, Bubbly Salt. I'm sorry to say, Pink Macho has left us.
It's true.
Pink Macho,
we're heartbroken.
If you want to come back, we will accept you with open arms for a brief period of time only. After that period of time,
you're dead to us.
You're dead to us. I'm sorry.
Just kidding.
No, it's okay. No, it's fine. We don't know what's going on. You know, maybe she found another comedian ophthalmologist to hang out with on social media. Anyway, thank you all for listening. We're your hosts, Will and Kristen Flannery, also known as the Glauc and Fleckens. Our executive producers are Will Flannery, Kristen Flannery, Aaron Courtney, Rob Goldman, and Shanti Brigg. Editor and engineer is Jason Portiz. Our music is by Omer Benzvi. To learn about our Knock Knock High's program, disclaimer, ethics policy, submission verification, and licensing terms, and HIPAA release terms. Feels so good to say those again. Oh, God.
Scratch that itch.
You can go to glaucandflecken.com or reach out to us, knockknockhigh at human-content.com with any questions, concerns, or fun medical puns. Knock Knock High is a human content production.
Goodbye.
Hey, Kristen.
Yeah.
What do you think about clinical documentation?
Boo.
You feel that strongly about it?
I do.
Why?
Because your doctor ends up spending all their time typing their little notes on their little computer instead of listening to you or looking at you in the eyeballs.
Well, it sounds like your doctors could use DAX Copilot.
I bet they could.
Yeah, this is like a little Jonathan in your pocket.
Yeah.
It's an AI assistant that helps decrease the administrative burden that leads to burnout and leads to your doctors not being able to look at you while they're talking to you.
Yeah, it helps them do their little typing and take their little notes without having to do it themselves.
93% of patients say their physician is more personable and conversational with DAX Copilot. You love conversation.
I do, and I want them to be a person.
And that we need that because today's physicians are overwhelmed and burdened and they feel like work-life balance is unattainable.
That's right.
And we know that work-life balance makes you a better physician.
That's right.
To learn about how DAX Copilot can help you reduce burnout and restore the joy of practicing medicine, visit aka.ms/knockknockhigh. Again, that's aka.ms/knockknockhigh. Thanks for watching the episode. You can find more on that playlist over there. If you prefer to listen or you just had your eyes dilated, you can binge full episodes wherever you get your podcasts. Or join the party over on Patreon, where you get early access episodes, hang out with us, get lots of exclusive bonus content. Hope you subscribe, leave a comment below. Let us know what you think.